Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by Danny Hernandez and James Gisante. Got quite a bit of news this week, so let's get right into it. We will start with the news of the week coming out of AEW Dynamite, which was the injury to Hangman Adam Page. It has been 24 hours since that at the time of this recording, so we've had a bit more news coming out of that. Last night, AEW tweeted out that Hangman was taken by medical personnel to the Cincinnati Trauma Center and diagnosed with a concussion. He was discharged, but will remain in protocol. Hangman also then tweeted out later, thanking everybody for their well wishes and support, and was supposed to insert a introspective but merciless quote about unfinished business, but apparently Jeff didn't put a quote in. So I'm sure we'll get one of them from Hangman soon.
Jeff is too busy dealing with legal issues to be worrying about people's tweets. Hangman needs to be more understanding.
This is Jeff with one F, so it might be a different Jeff. But James, I think obviously it's very good here that Hangman seems to be in good spirits. We don't like saying it's only a concussion. Obviously, as we learn more about concussions and how terrible they are and can be and the impacts they can have, we don't want to see people get them. But considering the alternative of a spinal injury or something worse, only a concussion sounds pretty good here, all things considered.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's a weird thing to be thankful for, but considering the scarier alternatives, I think we're all very thankful for how this played out. I'm hoping it's because even just a concussion, we don't know how long he's going to be out. You know, Adam Cole just had a concussion and we haven't seen him since Forbidden Door. So I guess that's not true. We did see him. He hasn't really been active since Forbidden Door. So I'm hoping this is a speedy recovery for Hangman. I hope this is treated well. It was treated well in the ring last night, so I have faith that it's going to be treated well in the follow-up, but we'll see what time, how this plays out. But I'm very thankful that we don't have to worry too much about Hangman.
Yeah, I was going to say what they did in the ring, led by Paul Turner and Doc Samson, they were on this very quickly. I think they did a very good job diagnosing it on the spot, or at least the fact that he was out cold, allegedly, and getting everything done. And I think part of that stems from everything that happened with Matt Hardy, I guess it was years ago at this point, and everything that I think we've seen in the last few weeks in the NFL too. Obviously, Tony Khan works with the Jaguars, and everything that happened with Tua and the Dolphins. This whole concussion thing has come back into the forefront. And Danny, I think that they did a great job here, and it probably helped Hangman and his recovery by a lot.
Yeah, I think I got to agree with what you said, and they should cancel the NFL. I think you're right, man. It's just too dangerous, and I don't see what the point is anymore. But, yeah, I think they surprised. I don't want to say surprisingly, but they kind of did surprisingly handle it well. Like you said with the Matt Hardy incident, like that was not handled well. And Tony Khan's poor defense of it was also not handled well, which, that being said, man, we really should have known he's not good at taking criticism, stretching all the way back to early 2020. Like that's, and by early 2020, I mean early pandemic, because it's like 2020 didn't start until the pandemic started. But and
it didn't end until like the end of last year.
I don't know if it ended, honestly, but yeah, it's good to see that he's okay in the grand scheme of things, or at least in the short term. That sounds weird saying that he has a concussion, but he's alive, he's mobile, and he is in a good enough mood to make jokes, which is what life's all about. So that's good. And yeah, honestly, I have no qualms with how anyone handled this at all. I think this was it's not something you can look at as other than an unfortunate incident. You can't really critique the company or the performers for anything here. And overall, it's just an unfortunate circumstance that it looks like everything's going to turn out okay despite that.
Yeah, and I think it would be important for Hangman to take his time here. Like we want him back, obviously, but we don't need to see him back just yet. I've had quite a few concussions myself, and they are nothing to play with. I took my time coming back from whatever it was because your head is a little scrambled there for at least a couple of days.
Do you guys want to hear my concussion? Well, my funniest concussion story?
Sure, why not?
I think Nick knows it. So my first concussion, I was at an ex-girlfriend's house, and I was pogo sticking in her basement, which
already enough said, I feel like. But continue.
And I get like 3 hops on the pogo stick, and then I just the thing just for some reason shot out in front of me, and I landed head first on the concrete, and I'm laying there on the floor not knowing what's going on. And then her dad comes down to check on me, and he flashes a light in my eyes, and he's like, "You're fine. You don't got a concussion." And I'm like, okay. And then when it wasn't until I found out later that I didn't remember anything that happened, I very clearly had a concussion. And to this day, my tear ducts are completely messed up. It's something that was like a weird side effect of the concussion. So I just randomly, I will start crying at random points that have nothing to do with anything emotional. So that was like 10 years ago, if not 11 years ago. My brain's still messed up because of it.
Mine was my first one when my brother hit me in the head with an aluminum baseball bat, and I still have the bump on my head.
That is something I can imagine it. I could see it happen.
It was an accident. He wasn't trying to kill me.
Oh no, I bet, but still, absolutely.
Yeah, I was in the 3rd grade and he was in 1st, and I've had like 5 or 6 more since. So, like I said, not fun, but I'm very glad Hangman is okay. Like I said, take your time coming back. And I will close this segment by quoting MJF's tweet after he gave out prayers for Hangman. He said, "Damn it, he's okay. I know I feel bad for tweeting this like a poor." So just I think by that metric, I think Hangman's going to be fine.
I mean, I think he just disclosed how little money certain people are making in the company, that he's calling them poor for proxy. Also, wait, can we I just thought of something. When we get to 500 subscribers,
nope, I'm not getting the back on a pogo stick. I'm not doing it. Before it even gets said, I'm not doing it.
I can't even pogo stick, so don't look at me. I could never figure that one out.
It's not even fear of another concussion, because at this point I feel like I'm just owed a free one. But it's more just I don't think my body could physically handle pogoing.
Your knees are going to give out, your ankles.
My knees, my back. It's like I'm just going to hit, I'm turning into dust the moment I make contact.
That's
okay,
fair.
so you heard it here first, folks. 500 subscribers. And conquer tier of Pogo Sticks.
Oh, God, that seems like a lawsuit waiting to happen. Hey, speaking of lawsuits, we have a little bit of news stemming from the fallout from Brawl Out. Ace Steel has reportedly been released from AEW. Obviously, he was involved in the backstage brawl between the Elite and CM Punk. He allegedly bit Kenny Omega on the arm during all this and apparently threw a chair. There has been a lot of speculation that he would have been fired from the jump, but there was this whole lawsuit apparently. And now, I guess AEW has officially been given the all clear from legal to let him go. There's also some reports, I think they're from Fightful, that both sides are warming up back to AEW and possibly coming back sooner than we think, which also might lead into the fact that Steel was let go. So a lot of news there. But Danny, I'll go to you first. A, I would love to see the Elite back in AEW. B, I guess I'd like to see Punk back. But C, I think it was pretty obvious that Ace had to go after everything that went down.
So, who is Ace Steel? I'm not going to lie. I really don't know who he is, you know? I feel like he's right before my time, but also not a big enough deal to like.
I don't think he's
Once
before
you
your
know
time.
him.
I just don't think he was anybody really
Well,
big.
Well, James, would you like to fill us in on who he was?
Oh, no, that's
actually?
fair. I know. I think maybe a sentence more than what Danny knows, which is that he is a professional wrestler or a former professional wrestler who trained Punk or was one of Punk's trainers and became a producer in AEW. And literally, I think the biggest thing that will come out of Ace Steel's career is the fact that he bit Kenny Omega.
And said fuck on national television.
Yep.
So him going is literally whatever. I mean, he's kind of a scapegoat because him leaving isn't a big deal. Like, even if this didn't happen, it would just be like, okay, like he's gone, so what? I still want Punk back. It's been long enough. I'm over it. I don't care anymore. I want it back. I want them back too. I'll joke that it's whatever for them just to annoy James, but like, it's whatever. They can come back or they can go. I don't give a fuck. But what else is there for them to do? All they've done since Kenny came back is introduce pointless titles that mean nothing. So like, they might as well stay gone and they should have taken the titles with them. That's my major gripe with this, is that they didn't take the titles with them. But in all seriousness, the Bucks were killing it and they were on fire, and Kenny would have done some great things, and having them back would be nice. Also, because ultimately, I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished and there shouldn't be repercussions, but like, I don't know, maybe just growing up in New York and watching like classmates fist fight over like the smallest things and like just sometimes get away with like a 2-day suspension really makes me feel like this wasn't that big a deal. But there was a dog involved, so you know what? Get out of here, Ace Steel, you piece of shit. Kenny Omega was just trying to save a dog, okay? So maybe he's the hero to me in this story if that's what he was really trying to do. But this is all stupid. It's always been stupid. But there's just the fallout that we have to deal with, and ultimately I just want all this to be behind us. I'm so sick of this fucking cloud hanging over AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's over because everyone's made amends and there's peace and we can just get back to it, or if they all get fired and we all just move on, I just want this to be over. This is the news story that truly never ends. We talk about this more than, and I mean like in general, we talk about this more than the fact that Vince retired this year. Cody left AEW this year. That was all this year.
I think we talked about Cody way more than this. I feel like we were talking about Cody for months.
We had 8 segments on Cody Rhodes.
Again, collectively though, that never stops. There's always a all-out, brawl-out, fallout story in wrestling news every week. It never ends. It's whether it's us, it's not always us because we've just chosen not to, but it's always in the news. It's dominated and again, in a year where Cody jumping ship is like the 3rd biggest news story of the year.
Yeah,
it's true.
I was gonna say, I think the one thing I most agreed with you on was that this was stupid. Yeah. Like the whole thing was stupid. It came from a place of just absolute petty nonsense, and it was all really, really dumb. But we're still here, and we still have to deal with it. So, James, I would imagine that, like I said earlier, the fact that we're seeming to get these guys back into the company, whatever that lawsuit was, either everything was resolved or settled, or it was just straight up dropped.
No, I agree. I think even if the lawsuit is still happening, I think there's a more clear legal safety that people are confident that they can take steps moving forward. I think Danny hit the nail on the head. This has just been such a dark cloud over everything AEW's doing. Some of it's AEW's own fault for how they handled the situation in the first place and how they continued to handle it. Some of it is very much Punk's fault. Some of it, much smaller part of it, is the Elite's fault. You know, I'm just going to say they did nothing wrong.
Barged into his locker room.
They knocked politely. They knocked politely with the lawyer present.
No.
Whatever she says is word to me. Whenever she's allowed to make a statement, that's it. Like whatever she said, that's what happened.
Yeah,
that's what
I completely agree. But I just want this to be done. I think the thing that because I agree, I'm very much over it. The only thing that sucks about it is that they are all gone. I would very much, even Punk to a degree, even though I think a lot of AEW's locker room issues happened when he came, I'd be happy to have him back because it would be money for AEW. There is money to be had with a match between Punk and Kenny. There is money to be had with Punk and FTR versus the Elite.
Sounds like you're a Bobby Fish sympathizer.
I watch Impact.
oh God, I've seen that clip. Oh God.
The thing is, the night I don't want to go into a tangent, but here we are. When Fish debuted, he went on a Punk tangent, and the crowd was all for it. They were cheering for Fish. They were all excited, and then they changed taping locations, and that crowd hated it. And it just completely backfired on Fish, who for some reason, twice in one set of tapings decided to do the same thing. And whatever, that's his stupidity. He's going back to Papa H and he'll be happy there. But I want them back. There's money to be had with all four people coming back. And I think the thing that we do forget is it was such a big deal because of, one, how public it was. We heard about Sammy Guevara and Eddie Kingston. We heard about Sammy Guevara and Andrade. We
saw it. They were on Twitter, but I get what you mean.
Punk very publicly on YouTube and on every friggin' Twitter clip you could find that night. You see him ripping into AEW's locker room. You see him ripping into the EVPs. You see him ripping into Hangman. And Colt Cabana. So it was hard to ignore, especially when CM Punk just won the AEW World Title. The Elite just won the newly formed trios titles. It was hard to feel like this wasn't a big deal when four people got stripped of championships. So time has passed. Bring them back. Keep them separate if they can't do business. Put them in business if they can, but
opposite sides of the arena.
Yeah, right. At all times. But I miss Kenny Omega. It sucks how much time he's missed. I miss the Bucks. I hope they immediately win the trios title upon returning. And Punk, maybe keep Punk away from the world. I mean, granted, even if Punk does come back, it's not going to be for a while because of his injury. Like, I did forget about his arm injury.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but keep him away from the world title, even just because of the injury stuff. He's proven his body can't keep going at a high level like that. So keep him away from the world title, but very excited for the potential return of the Elite as soon as possible.
All right. So I did look up Ace Steel because I actually wanted to learn a bit about him. The two career highlights I could find that I would actually like to share. He was in Ring of Honor in 2003, where he was in a tag team called Hatebreed with Punk, and they were feuding with Colt Cabana and Raven until Colt Cabana turned on Raven, and then they formed the Second City Saints, and they were together for a while. But more importantly, Ace Steel had a bit of a run on and off in WWE, where the most interesting thing he did, he was Donald Trump in the Trump versus Rosie match.
That was Ace Steel?
That was Ace Steel. He was
Wow.
He was the Donald in the Donald versus Rosie.
I have like that image of them fighting imprinted in my brain. So that's, oh man, how forgettable a man he is.
Yeah. After that, he was in Ring of Honor again for a little bit, and then pretty much he was a coach at WWE until he got released for COVID purposes, and then he was in AEW until now. But I don't think after what happened there, there's much love lost from the crowds to Ace Steel. So sorry, bud. You probably shouldn't have thrown a chair. But like you're saying, James, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing the Elite back. Punk, I think he has such a long time in his recovery that by the time he does end up getting back, most, if not all of this will have completely blown over, at least within the locker room and in the fan base as a whole. You know, as Bryan Danielson says, we are fickle. So we'll probably forget, and to an extent, and there'll be the odd joke made about it, you know, on Squared Circle or whatever, and he'll come back and it'll be fine. But you're absolutely right, James. Keep him away from the title. He can't stay healthy. And quite frankly, he's just unreliable, not even just in health, with health reasons, with, you know, his mouth too. So
that's part of mental health. You know, he's very clearly unreliable there too.
Yeah, but I wasn't even trying to equate like his mental health with him just, you know, talking off at the mouth all the fucking time, like, or popping off at the mouth. That was like he occasionally just has to, you know, talk a bunch of shit, and if he's gonna have to get suspended again, I don't think you want a title on him. So, and quite frankly, I think if he does end up having to get suspended again, at that point you might have to cut ties. But that is a different discussion, and we can get there if we get there. But let's move on to a bit more positive AEW news. Chris Jericho has signed a 3-year extension with AEW. This is right on the tails of Jon Moxley signing a 5-year extension, plus signing his wife Renee Paquette to a deal. But this is a pretty big deal. I think you have two of your biggest stars locked down to long-term deals in both Mox and Jericho, two originals at that, and two former champions. So, James, I think, you know, despite all of the turmoil that happened with the fallout and from Brawl Out, God, that is really difficult to say. Despite all of that turmoil, they took two of the guys who I think helped right the ship, and rewarded them with long-term extensions.
I completely agree. And I as much as we want to paint it as, wow, AEW did right by these guys, there's also a reality that these guys are doing right by AEW too.
Oh, yeah, they earned these contracts.
Exactly. Absolutely. Moxley has been the ace of the company. Goes without saying. We don't need to get into all of his accomplishments. Jericho has been a constant locker room leader presence that apparently he even stepped up even more in this last month or so, if not more. So they deserve to be recognized for that. And AEW is smart to gobble them up and to make sure that they can't go anywhere near WWE. Not that they necessarily want to go, but look what all this talk is with MJF. Like, nobody blames MJF for the contract negotiations aspect of it. Everybody should be making their bread, you know? All these guys who want to leave, like potentially Andrade, potentially Malachi Black. It says something that the biggest names in the company are saying, I don't care about trying to make more money with WWE. I don't care about trying to start a bidding war. I'm happy here. They're doing right by me. I'm staying here. And I'm like, their faith in me is enough for me to want to stay here. And I'm sure they also did get a buttload of money as well. So it's just a good sign. It's definitely needed after the black cloud of Brawl Out. But I don't know. Jericho done, Moxley done. I know we're not there yet. I would love to hear about a contract extension for Bryan. All these people who really stepped up in the time that this negativity was happening, I would love to see something positive come their way. Hey, Jericho's Ring of Honor champion. Moxley's AEW champion. Bryan has a job. Everybody's winning right now.
Bryan's doing the jobs.
Damn.
Sorry. I know you guys really hate the fact that he keeps losing, but I couldn't resist that one. Awkward transition. I will read this from the article Variety put out, who were the first to report it. Jericho will also be taking on increased responsibilities behind the scenes in AEW and will now serve as a producer and creative advisor in addition to continuing as a mentor to young talent. So James, not only has he stepped up, just on his own, it's in his contract now. So he's going to be doing a lot. And Danny, I'm very happy that he is staying. I'm very happy Moxley is staying too, because Moxley, no offense to Dean Ambrose, Moxley's way cooler than Dean Ambrose. And I think putting Jericho in a position, not necessarily of power, but with, a little more gravitas to it, I think is very good for this company following everything that's happened in the last few months.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but I think if this had come at a different time, there would have been more to the story. Like maybe Jericho starts, shopping back to WWE. But then again, he could get a big contract whenever he wanted. So I could believe that for Jericho, he doesn't care so much about the money at this point in his career. He's got all that Fozzy money, that's definitely bringing in the dough. But yeah, he's been there since the beginning, and a lot of people have, but none of those people are there right now for whatever reasons. And it's nice to have his veteran presence around, and not every Jericho thing is a hit, but his hits are good, so I'm happy to have him around still. And I don't think you should do a 5-year deal like Mox. I think do 3 years and then see what you want to do. See if you want to retire, or see if you want to go have the one last run in WWE so you can job to fucking mid-carders again. But play the hits or whatever. But good move. You got to keep these guys around because he does have the name value, but he does have the wisdom. And him taking on more of a role backstage, I see no downsides in that whatsoever, unless it comes to nope, I'm not gonna do it. Never mind. I'm gonna let it go. Move on. I'm not gonna make a Storm in the Capitol joke.
Yeah. But before we switch topics, I do want to say there is really, for me, one downside of Moxley staying in AEW. I would love to see this performer. I would love to see this caliber of talent that Moxley has evolved into take on Roman Reigns. But I also don't necessarily want to see Jon Moxley lose to Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
But I do think there is an excellent feud there to be had.
Fuck it. Give me the Shield triple threat again, just so Mox doesn't have to get pinned. Sorry, Seth, but that'd be great.
I stand by the only triple threat. No, not true. They had a triple threat in NXT or FCW, I think it was FCW. The WWE main roster triple threat was mid as hell. It was just good because Moxley won.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It was it was a forgettable match, which is sad. The only reason it's rememberable is because it was the Shield triple threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also put a little bit of that on Roman for getting busted.
I blame that for the feud feeling weak, but the match itself doesn't matter that he was gone.
Yeah, but it was a pay-per-view and he was about to leave. It's like, why would he go all out?
No, he came back. He came back for the triple threat.
Yeah. he missed the
bill. Yeah, that's true.
He defended the title against Seth and lost it, knowing the suspension was coming. The triple threat happened. It was his first thing back.
Right.
So there is no excuse for that match sucking, other than it just it didn't suck. It didn't suck. It was just really, really mid.
Hilariously, the best interaction they had together in the ring was when I think Roman beat Seth, or Seth beat Roman for the title, and then Mox cashed in on him. That was the best one, and it was 2 matches. It wasn't even one.
I like the Fatal 4-Way that Orton was part of. As
yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. That was a good one.
So getting back to Jericho, though, I think it is important him being the Ring of Honor champion and not even just signing his contract, but him being the ROH champ does play into the fact that there have been reports, and Tony Khan, not even reports, Tony Khan came out and said that they're looking to try to get a Ring of Honor TV deal for about 2023. So I think, James, that using Jericho to kind of build Ring of Honor again, not that it needs a build that AEW did, but kind of doing this, a similar thing where we even saw like this week where he faced Dalton Castle. You introduce a guy like Dalton Castle against Jericho. You know, people are drawn in by Jericho. They see Dalton Castle, which is just, as he puts in, an experience. And now people are drawn to watching this guy. So when we do get a Ring of Honor television show, you know, people will go watch because they want to see people like Dalton Castle and whomever else Jericho ends up facing on this Ring of Jericho run.
No, I agree. We could all complain about the Bryan Danielson of it all. I think we're all on the same page on that. I would have preferred it had a different journey or a different ending, or at the very least, a different beginning. But Ring of Honor is going to benefit from Chris Jericho. Ring of Honor TV could happen because of Chris Jericho. All accounts, all reports, Jericho was super influential in AEW getting a TV deal in the first place. Dynamite existing at all could be heavily contributed to Chris Jericho being a part of AEW. So, God willing, lightning can strike twice. You know, we're hearing reports about that Ring of Honor TV show being a lot closer. There was one report or one tweet that hinted, you know, HBO Max might be a place to go for a lot of AEW fans soon.
Yes,
and
assuming that Discovery doesn't completely torch that app and burn it to the ground.
But I legitimately don't have the emotional capacity to deal with everything going on with Warner Brothers Discovery.
Yeah,
it hurts my heart. Like it actually hurts. But I'm a Ring of Honor diehard. I will always love that company. I
former roster member.
Former roster, you know, man, like I was there during the hardest days of that company. I was there. And I just want to see them do well. I want that legacy to remain intact. And I think that Jericho is doing what he can to strengthen that legacy.
Yeah, and I don't think Jericho is going to end up being on the show every week. I don't even think he's going to be champion when the show starts. I think.
Oh no, I think he loses that title either on the first episode of the TV show or at Final Battle in December, which will lead to the TV show.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say he's probably going to lose it right before the TV show starts, and that's like your premiere, whether it is the pay-per-view or the first episode. I think I would go with the pay-per-view personally, but I think just and then because then whoever you have win as champion is your first champion under the new banner, however you want to phrase that, and he's going to be your top guy there, to start. So, and I think having that person be Jericho is, a great move. And I do understand this whole thing came at the expense of Bryan, and that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Danny, when I started this entire segment, I said something, and I'm not sure if I said Dynamite on Wednesday when I meant Tuesday, but you did put your hands in your head, and I was curious as to why. And be sure to unmute your mic before you start, because I heard your cat going off a little bit there, and you muted it.
My cat didn't make any noise, but I was checking on my cat. But I don't remember why I put my hand up now, but I think you guys are insane about taking I think you guys are insane in general, Rev, because you watch all of the sports, and that's crazy, and James for obvious reasons. But why would you take the title off Jericho before the show if you having him win the title is to get the show? I don't understand that at all. And I think you would need Jericho to be champion for at least the beginning of the show, to drive the same way you had him as champion for the beginning of Dynamite.
So,
I think you do almost the same exact thing. You have him just be champion for like the first 2 or 3 months of the show.
so you're
and
thinking
build
like
up
maybe through the first pay-per-view cycle,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I guess you could do it, because I imagine Ring of Honor isn't going to be live the way Dynamite is. I imagine it's going to be taped. So I think even if you still have Jericho on AEW Dynamite every week, which I'm sure you will, then having him just do a day or two of taping once a month, he'll probably be okay for those first few months of him being champion. So I think I could see that being a path that they end up taking as well.
Yeah, because I don't see why would you even put it on him if you're going to take it off before the show. I feel like the whole point of putting them on it was to get the show, and if they're taking a show, it's because they want Jericho. So I don't know. That's just the way I see it. But I gotta let my cat out, so I'll be right back.
Okay. And you know what? I think I will take that opportunity to move on. So let us do so. And we will move on to WWE, where reports are coming out that Becky Lynch's shoulder isn't necessarily healing the way that she and WWE wanted it to. They were attempting to have it heal without surgery. It doesn't look like things are going that way. And that would obviously mean surgery and more time on the shelf, which sucks. So, James, I'll go to you because Danny's just coming back and I want to give him a second to reset. Like I said, obviously this sucks. We want to see Becky back in the ring as soon as we can, but I think, you don't want to risk further injury by having her come back early, obviously, or coming back hurt without the proper healing time and medical care.
Absolutely. I feel like we are really just hurting because of how hot Becky's face turn was. There was just so much excitement to have big time Bex back, and like to feel like we should cheer for her. So
we were getting the man back, but big time Bex was going away. We're
never getting the man back until that old bastard. Anyway,
well, maybe not by name, but by character.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Also, they did just straight up call her the man on that return promo.
Did they?
Yeah, Bianca did.
Gotcha.
Just straight up. So.
Suck it, old man. But anyway, that said, it always sucks to hear that people aren't healing properly or at a good timetable. Not even just because we want to see them back. It's just. Yeah, Danny, I feel that, man. I feel that.
Me too.
Yep. We just want to know that she's okay as a person. We just want to know that she's all right. And I admittedly, that report that just came out, or was just like really making the rounds these last couple days, that was from September, about her progress being a little behind and that she was still a couple months away from being good. So theoretically, she could be coming back soon. Personally, I wouldn't even discuss bringing her back until the Rumble. Just have her return at the Rumble, win the Rumble, go after Ronda, and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. We have a WrestleMania main event. But it's, I don't know what their plans are. I don't know what Triple H's plans are. Maybe he's done with Becky. Maybe he wants to push one of his NXT women that are shinier and newer and named Rhea Ripley. I don't know. So...
Well, that's what I got 2 brands for, man.
I agree. And, there's always that looming shadow, that specter of is Sasha Banks and Naomi coming back? Because how do you not put Naomi in the WrestleMania main event? So...
the old market down switcheroo.
So, I don't know. I would not rush this because you have such a generational talent, trademark MJF, in Becky Lynch. And I'd rather miss her for a couple more months than shorten her career otherwise.
Yeah, I think it depends, like you said, James, on what their plans are. I would note that Rhea, I believe, is on Raw and Ronda on SmackDown. So, like I said, you could do both. That's what you do have 2 brands for. But I think if you do want to try to get her back for the Rumble, and it does look like surgery is the way to do it, I almost feel like you would rather do it sooner than later so she can start rehabbing and perhaps make it back for the Rumble. Or, Danny, WWE does lie a lot about these injuries on purpose. So people come back 3 months before they were supposed to, a la John Cena at the Royal Rumble that one time. But, so either way, there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah. So earlier in the day yesterday, I watched a video from a different wrestling YouTube channel that doesn't exist that I made up in my head. And they said that Becky Lynch was expected to return sooner rather than later. And then on their website, a few hours later, they contradicted that story with this one as well. And I just, don't really know what to believe there. But I will say that ultimately she is relatively okay. Like, she is still going to things. She's walking around without a sling. Like, she's doing things. She's working out. She's living a normal everyday life as someone of her superstar caliber would. So I do think she's ultimately overall okay, and I don't know how much validity there is to this, but if she needs surgery, yeah, you got to get that done soon so you can make it back for the Rumble, because I mean, I care a lot about these upcoming Rumbles. I think there's going to be Triple H's first Rumbles, and I think there's a lot to it. And I think, Becky is still an NXT toy technically, so she might still get that love from Triple H. But also, I think one of the main issues we've seen with this injury happen is the immediate significance drop in significance of damage control. They've been pretty much on a downward trajectory since the first 2 weeks. Honestly, it's true. It's like Bailey lost. There's no coming back from that ladder match loss. Like, that was a handicap match that you lost. Bianca had no backup. She beat up your whole faction and you and won the match. Like, that's, how do you come back from that? And then they lost the tag title tournaments. I can't help but think that everything about that story would have been better if she wasn't injured.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that either Alexa or Asuka wouldn't have been a part of it. But I think that's okay, because I don't think either of them have they're just part of it. It's not about them.
Yeah.
Because if Becky was there, it would have been about her. It would have been about her and Bianca. And then by proxy, whoever the third person is. But I obviously miss Becky, but I don't want her to rush back if she's not able to. Like, I know I just complained that the story's not as good as it could be, but there's still good things going on in the women's division. Bianca has broken some records with their title reign, and it looks like it's not ending anytime soon. And she's either going one or two ways for WrestleMania. There's the really cool way of her versus Rhea, or there's the less cool way, but still cool for her way of her beating Charlotte at WrestleMania, just to say she beat all the horsewomen.
That's what I thought James meant by the looming presence. I
know. That's why I thought he was going there too.
Just took a hard left turn with Rhea Ripley.
No, the hard left turn was at Naomi.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That's true. Bro, if Naomi came back, talk about a pop that it would be so forced. That's like, you guys don't really, you're popping for it because it's a big deal, but you don't believe in this right now. What are you popping for? But yeah, no, Becky needs to be back. I really want the Becky Ronda singles match, even though it's been diluted severely by having the Ronda Charlotte match happen first, and that match sucked. And then all the Liv stuff has been kind of weird, but it's made people care about Ronda, so that's, I guess, a good step in the right direction, that they can keep this feud hot without it actually being a feud yet. But ultimately, until we hear anything for sure, I'm just going to stay optimistic about it, because because I want to, because WWE is the land of optimism, and it's always been for as far back as I can remember, and I can only remember from SummerSlam till now. But nothing bad ever happens in WWE now.
Yeah.
Ever. Nothing. Not a thing.
I was going to say, to the beginning of your point with, that certain YouTube channels immediately contradicting themselves. It's misinformation season, as we call it in the NFL around draft time. Everyone's lying about everything just to try to throw everybody else off. And that's what you're going to end up getting. So I think you get that with any wrestler's timetable when it comes to their return. And that's what we're going to get here.
Wrestlers are also superhuman and recover at different paces than the rest of us. Like, me and James have been dealing with shoulder injuries for like fucking months now. But
I've had one since high school, 11 years or so.
But for a wrestler like that, it could literally be something that's supposed to take 6 months and they're back in 3. So time isn't real, especially if you're a wrestler.
Yeah, not only are they phenomenal athletes, they are allowed to use certain substances that perhaps not all of us are allowed to use, especially athletes in professional leagues in order to get healthy.
Me and James can use them.
Yeah. Who's going to fine us? I ain't getting suspended.
Fair enough. But yeah, that's a good point. But either way, you're right, Danny. Like, these people are otherworldly types of humans, so their recovery time is way quicker than all of ours. And I think that's part of the reason why WWE likes lying to us about their prognoses, because when they say, oh, this person's going to be out 10 months and they come back in 8th, it's such a huge surprise because we didn't think they were going to be back for another 2 months, and it makes it, I think, that much cooler. And it adds to the mystique of the character that they were able to come back 2 months before we all thought they were going to be able to, that they were able to grind and push through their rehab and come back and be, they're not going to put them at full strength because they always have to work over that body part in the next match when they get back. But, the fact that they can still come back, at seemingly superhuman pace just adds to the larger than life characters that are wrestlers. So keep lying to us, wrestling. It makes for better stories, and I like it. All right, let's cover one more thing here before we go. The Rock recently did an interview with Bloomberg, and he had a couple of interesting quotes about it, but one of them revolved around the possibility of him joining the WWE board at some point. And I will read this. This, again, is from Bloomberg. WWE co-CEO Nick Khan and I talked about that, and we always enjoy that over a bottle of Terramana, which is The Rock's tequila company. I love the wrestling business. I grew up in it. My grandfather and my dad started here in Canada, where his father was born. So I'm not quite too sure if a board seat is in my future, but possibly other things are in my future for sure. So The Rock also went on to talk about the possibilities of WWE selling and who it could be sold to. But I think, Danny, the idea of The Rock being involved on the business side of things in WWE is obviously incredibly interesting and also a little funny. And I'm going to steal this from Reddit, that Triple H sat around and worked all this time just to be usurped by The Rock.
I mean, it's a weird way.
I got James with that one.
I never put it that way.
It's a weird way to get to the White House, Like, so I'm not sure what the angle there is.
It kind of worked for Linda McMahon. She was part of the White House administration.
Yeah, true. But
that was a point in our country's history.
Yep. A very recent point. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Terramana is pretty good tequila. I don't know if you guys ever had it, but
is it actually? I broke up with tequila a long time ago, and
I never started. I can't. Everyone's got that liquor they can't do minus tequila.
We had a good run together, but then she hurt me, and I haven't been able to forgive her.
Terramana is an affordable Casamigos, so The Rock he really is still the people's champ after all this time.
Fuck you, Clooney.
Absolutely, guys. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I'm 3-1 right now in battles since we've started this podcast. So I'm trying to stay on the winning side. But motherfucker sends in an Arcanine against my superior dog Pokemon. But The Rock being on the board, I don't know. I'm not super into it. I don't know anymore with The Rock, because if he's not in the ring cutting a promo, I don't know if I care, because I can't say I don't think he's a creative genius. I think he's just a charismatic person. So him behind the scenes is kind of just whatever.
But do you think he would be involved on the creative side? Because I read this more of I'll be involved on the business side of things. Because obviously everything The Rock touches is gold in terms of business. But he's got the tequila company, he's got his energy drink company. He just bought the XFL from Vince, and that's starting up again next year. I'm very excited about it. And they're partnering with the NFL. The guy is a very shrewd businessman, along with his business partner, who I don't remember her name, but I believe it's his ex-wife.
Yeah, Danny Garcia.
Not the wrestler.
Okay.
Is it?
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But anyway, as I don't know what I was gonna say now after that, but is he but what is he good at, right? It's making money off of mediocre products, and that's already WWE's specialty. So what more can he possibly add to the formula that they both already use? The Rock, has The Rock ever made a good movie since The Rundown? Or
yes.
Be Cool, or Get Shorty, whichever one he was in.
Get Smart was good.
I love Get Smart. I love Get Smart.
He was in Be Cool, by the way. It was because that was a sequel.
Yeah.
Get Smart was good. Word is Black Adam is really fucking good, but
no, that is not the word.
Is that not the word?
Yeah,
the word. It's got a 52 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Maybe I'm just getting all the.
But granted, I think the audience reception for the few fans who have seen it so far have said that it's been really good.
But actually, that goes back to my point. I just based that off of the propaganda I get from his Twitter feed. The man is a propaganda machine. Imagine putting that behind the strength of WWE.
Oh no, I agree. I agree. Danny, do you have more to say, or could I jump in?
No, go ahead.
At the very least, I think we can all agree. More people know or are familiar with The Rock at this point than they are with actual WWE. The Rock is bigger than WWE.
Absolutely.
So Rock getting involved with WWE will bring eyes to it. Even if you have people who are just oh, Rock's working with WWE, I want to see what he does. I want to see how he shakes the company up. Even if it's absolutely nothing, just because he's there on a business, in a business sense and not in a creative sense. But when he works on something, it is a success, even if it's good or not. Black Adam might be the biggest piece of shit in the world. I don't know. I'm seeing it this weekend. But it will be successful because it's The Rock. He wills these things into existence.
But is there a forest in that movie for him to run through, and or a skyscraper for him to mount?
More importantly, does it have Kevin Hart? Because I think the best thing that ever happened to Kevin Hart's career is his association with The Rock.
You can say the same about the Fast and the Furious franchise.
All right, that actually is a good point, though. I don't know if you know this, but The Rock had a nickname in Hollywood for years.
I know this strictly because of you.
Yeah. The Rock's nickname in Hollywood was Franchise Viagra. He comes into a franchise, and he pushes it faster, harder, and stronger, and it becomes more successful than it was before him. It started with The Mummy. The Mummy Returns did way better, I think, than The Mummy did.
Even though the first one was better.
Yeah, I agree. I do like Mummy Returns, though.
I think it was great, too.
It's close. I think it's close.
Yeah, I think it is very close.
They're both great.
He comes, he replaces Brendan Fraser in the Journey to the Center of the Earth movies. The sequel did way better.
Okay, but when you say it like that, though, I feel bad for Brendan Fraser.
I do too, because just 2 in a row with The Mummy. Fast and the Furious, Fast 5 revitalized that franchise to the point that now it is a $1 billion franchise for each movie.
So that makes him sound like a heel, actually. Because
If you ask Vin Diesel, he is.
Yeah, well, fuck Vin Diesel. And he did it for G.I. Joe, even though like it didn't really matter in the long run, but the second one was way more successful than the first one. So
Don't have time to get into that.
point being, The Rock, if he gets involved in something, it becomes a success. So WWE will be fine without The Rock. It's been fine for the last 20 years without The Rock being there full time, but I don't see how him getting involved could possibly hurt them in any way.
Wasn't his movie studio not a success?
No, $7 does pretty well. $7 does pretty well.
Yeah, I think they're still involved with pictures that he makes in some way, shape, or form. Also, too,
they're still very involved in everything he does. Like Henry Cavill is represented by them too.
Who?
Superman, my guy.
That's Tom Welling, Superman.
Thank you. Thank you. You can say The Witcher.
All right, that's fair. Also, too, I think, him being involved in WWE again allows for a lot of more crossover promotion as well. You even saw a small example of that semi-recently, and it wasn't the best promotion.
Are you about to bring up the egg? I feel like you're about to bring up the egg.
I am going to bring up the egg.
It was great promotion.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting the name of the movie, unfortunately, because I had a lot of fun with it. But
it was Red Notice. Yeah.
Yes, Red Notice. Between it was him and Ryan Reynolds is also a marketing machine, so I think I saw more publicity for this movie than anything else ever. But if you have The Rock on the board, working on a movie, working with Warner Brothers like he is now, or whoever it is, then, he can bring in cross promotion for either his movie or any other movie the studio's doing. And perhaps, maybe he gets, a WWE superstar, a small part. He got Roman in the Fast and Furious spinoff he did.
Nepotism.
Yeah.
He also,
that
Young Rock segment did more to set up The Rock versus Roman Reigns than anything that has happened on WWE television.
Yeah, so we're already getting crossover, and he's not even working with them officially right now. So I think The Rock being officially involved in WWE, whether it's on the board or in some other capacity, is only going to be great for them because, as we said, everything the man touches is gold, or at least, blue boner pills. So, hey, if it works, it works. All right, that about wraps things up for us here. I have trouble saying that every week, which is weird. But before I give all the closings, I do want to give one more thing, and it is a quote from the great Bret Hart. Quote, James, I think already knows what this is. I would have loved to work with Brock Lesnar. I heard he was a pro, the opposite of Goldberg. So thank you everybody so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. I think Danny said James is going to go on a pogo stick now when we get to 500 subscribers. We'll see if that actually happens. Spoiler alert, it's not.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Unless we can work out our insurance with that, which we don't have, then that's not going to happen. Yeah, so be sure to like and subscribe. Check out our other videos. We broke news last week about Soraya talking to TV studios about a possible reality TV show. So you can go check out our conversation about that. Also, we do live reactions to Dynamite every week. You can check out Danny's Raw Fast Forwards when he goes live after Raw on Mondays. James hopefully will be getting back to doing Impacts now that he is recovered. Those obviously will be on Thursdays. And we go live after the pay-per-views too. So be sure to check all that stuff out as well. You can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Danny will get me the TikTok link at some point, and it will be in
the TikTok link.
Oh, you actually did. All right, damn. I'm gonna have to actually put it in this week, and there goes my bit. But those will all be in the description below.
It's overflowing with content, guys. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, you can check all of our stuff out there and follow along all over in those places. So for Danny Hernandez and James Gisante, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you here next time on the Mark It Down podcast. Have a good one, everyone.